Are invited to take the safeties off their minds if intelligent conversation, logical thought, and the truth are offensive to you. Don't listen to this program. Hi, everybody. I'm John Leffery. Welcome to Steel on Steel. We're a weekly program dedicated to the sharpening of ideas, news, commentary, interview, information, and debate, much of which we will not hear elsewhere. Our goal and pledge for the 25-plus years, we're going to stretch it to 26 years shortly, has been to be an early warning service to connect what to many people are seemingly unrelated dots in the area of economics, politics, and religion, project seemingly unrelated trends, and show you how those dots and tribbons are coming together just over the horizon where normally the herd doesn't see it. Herd's almost always running in the wrong direction. You can tell that by some of the responses to the presidential campaigns. Mainline media looking in the rearview mirror to try to tell us where we're going, or really nowadays acting as journalist activists. And they do this by reporting some stories and not reporting others, reporting some facts and not reporting others. In other words, you're getting a very biased sample of what you're seeing in the news. And since all of that's true, and for 25 years we've been an antidote to that, remember that your failure to be informed does not make me a wacko. You know, recently, Mr. Martin Castro, who is chairman of the United States Commission on Civil Rights, made some interesting comments about religion. Here's a quote. The phrases religious liberty and religious freedom will stand for nothing except hypocrisy so long as they remain code words for discrimination, intolerance, racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, Christian supremacy, or any form of intolerance. Notice in this list, it's very, very telling because there's only one particular group targeted as being a possible aggressor, Christian supremacy, and one group that is targeted as being a possible religious aggressee, that is Islam. So what is Christian supremacy when somebody says it? What does that mean? I mean, if you believe that Christianity is somehow superior to all other religions or maybe right when they're wrong, which, by the way, all religions, including Islam, make that claim. That's part of what they are. Then, according to this, I guess, there's something wrong with you. You're a bad person because of that. Well, see, there's a reason for all of this. Let's do a quick bit of history here. Over the last century, the humanist movement has exuded a standing hatred for religion, which traditionally is a buzzword for Christianity, since that was the foundation for Western civilization's moral and legal system. And in order to create their new ideal global society, the humanists set about seeking to overturn Christianity, stating so very, very clearly in Humanist Manifesto 1 and elsewhere as the moral base of Western civilization. And so thus we have been subjected to a century-long, ever-increasing, ever-noisier academic harangue denouncing Western civilization and its values and its religious base while attempting to create their idealistic, God-free civilization of world citizens where we all sing Kumbaya in a utopia being run under the rule of enlightened socialist elites. There's just been one little itty-bitty hiccup in this utopian vision, as humanists, to their credit, honestly recognized early on would be a problem. They would have to develop their own basis for morality, ethics, and laws to replace Christianity, which in the beginning they felt sure their goddess of logic and reason would provide for them. Well, after 100 years of trial and mostly error, we can actually say that their goddess of logic and reason didn't deliver, and they have utterly failed to develop their own adequate moral and ethical system, which of course is reflected in the laws and policies of various countries in the West. And much of the societal chaos that we're seeing in the West can be traced back to this source. However, don't expect repentance from true believers. What they have substituted for their own moral system is they jump across the line and steal heavily from Christian values, hope that nobody noticed, and then run back across the lines and pronounce these values as somehow self-evident, needing no justification or basis. It's sort of like stealing a car with no gasoline in the tank. If you're running from the cops, you ain't gonna get far. But let's pick all of this apart. Discrimination. Most Americans and others would believe that discrimination against people on the basis of certain categories is a bad thing. But why? I mean, who said so? Christians can base their belief about discrimination on the idea that people are created by God. And as such, they're all loved by him and should be loved by us and shown respect. This was the driving belief in abolishing slavery and segregation, as a matter of fact. All right, let's take the next one, intolerance. Okay, this is really a rough one for the elites. Every society is tolerant of some things and individuals and intolerant of others, and there's usually a reason for that. Just a matter of deciding who and what should be tolerated and what should not be tolerated. Nobody tolerates everything or everyone. So tolerance as a virtue can't stand on its own. And we see that because when elites encounter people they deem to be intolerant, what do? Love them, coddle them, try to convert them? No, they won't tolerate them and actively seek to discriminate against them in schools, in the workplace, and in politics. It's a giant rolling self-contradiction. Let's go on to the next one. Racism. Now, most Americans and probably Canadians and others in the West would think that racism is a bad thing. But again, we have to come back to the question, why is racism wrong? If there is no God, then racism might be a good thing. Might give me an evolutionary advantage against another group. If it's a struggle for survival and the us can subdue the them, then that's a good thing. Well, it is for us anyway. You see, without God, there is no basis for saying that racism is wrong. The entire panoply of what they're preaching at us in the name of trying to get rid of Christian values has no intrinsic value whatsoever once you take God and Christianity out of the picture. Without God, we're simply products of a mindless chance, and whatever is. No right, no wrong, no good, no evil, and that puts an end to rights. Let the games begin. Let the strong survive. You see, the secular system we have today in the West, not only is it causing severe problems, it's full of empty, self-contradictory, and arbitrarily enforced propositions. Let's go back to Mr. Castro's word statement there originally, discrimination. Well, I want to pick on Islam for a while here. Inside the Islamic world, discrimination among groups is rampant and either legally enforced or tolerated. Intolerance. Little is tolerated inside the Islamic world except Islam, where minority groups are not often treated well and face daily persecution and societal pressure. Racism. Likewise, inside the Islamic world, there is much racism and slavery of minority groups, especially women, which takes us to sexism. Given the second-class treatment of women inside the Islamic world with few rights, one would think the women's rights group of the West would be up in arms, but not so. Homophobia. You know, while gay rights activists in this country are obsessed about not having wedding cakes, they are strangely mute, with just a few exceptions, about the treatment of homosexuals inside the Islamic world, where gays are routinely executed by being strung up on cranes or thrown off of buildings. Note the thundering silence from the very people telling us that these things are wrong. Why don't they rise up in righteous anger against this injustice and crusade worldwide? When it came to apartheid, they were willing to rush in and have global sanctions and blah, 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 blah. But here they're just quiet. As a matter of fact, will they rise up in righteous anger against this? No. They'll call me Islamophobic for telling you about it. Go figure. As a matter of fact, you can't figure because it doesn't make any sense. Look, the value that built freedom in the West came from the very Christianity they're copying and that they want to get rid of. Islam did not provide the freedoms to the world we experience in the West. Christianity did. I know, that makes me a Christian supremacist. It just happens to be true, but truth isn't a factor when political correctness reigns. You know, now that we know that their self-contradicting system of arbitrary values doesn't work, let's stop playing that it does and go back to what did work. I'm John Leffler. We're at SteelOnSteel.com. The program is Steel on Steel. Well, this is our Legal Beagle show this weekend. I've decided to dedicate the first hour to dealing